I can't say that word without sounding drunk. Charcuterie. All right, guys, so we're back. It is November. We officially switched to daylight savings time yesterday, so now everything is going to be just dark and miserable for the next 6 months. But while I have daylight today, I wanted to kind of start a new series on with Christmas coming up. Kind of just like gifts you can make for people, bushcraft style. So we're gonna go in the woods. We're gonna find some wood or resources in the woods, and we're gonna make different gifts that you can make. Today we're gonna start simple. I'm just gonna start with like a charcuterie board or serving tray or something like that. I've got a lot of ash around here that's down, so I'm gonna use ash, but you can use anything. Ideally, you'd like to use black walnut, but I don't have access to any black walnut trees around here. But black walnut is your go-to if you can get to it. You want a hardwood. You don't want a real porous wood like oak. Ash is a bit porous, but it's not too bad. It's a nice hardwood, and we'll treat it in a way that it's not too bad. I don't know that I would use it for a cutting board. I would probably stick to like hard maple for a cutting board, but for serving, you know, nice little cool tray to put out with some cheese and crackers and stuff like that. Ash will be fine. So we're gonna try to find a good log. We're gonna use the chainsaw to cut up a big chunk of it, and then we're gonna use the furrow behind me to kind of split it down into kind of a larger chunk of what we're looking for. And then we're gonna use a couple other various tools, maybe a hatchet or whatever we need to do to get it down to rough size, and then we'll go into the garage where hopefully it's not as windy, and we'll work on it from there and kind of finish it out. So this probably shouldn't take you more than an hour or two to do. I've got a couple other projects planned, like how to make a snowman or reindeer, stuff like that for maybe outdoor decoration. A couple things we can make like Christmas trees out of, things like that. I might get into like spoon making or bowl making if you want to like make a kind of a bushcrafty style, you know, salad bowl set or something. So we'll see where we go, but this will be the first video. We'll see how, you know, if it's well received or not. But with Christmas coming up, I've kind of got that on the mind of what are we going to start making to give people and stuff. So we'll go from there. We'll see what happens. But today, charcuterie board. So first thing we got to do, we got a chainsaw fired up and running. I got it gassed and oiled already. Chains tensioned up. So we'll go find us a log. We'll cut us I'd say somewhere between 12 and 18 inches, maybe 24. We'll see. We'll cut us a decent sized log, and hopefully wide enough that we can make something out of it. So I found this log out here. It's a bought down tree. It's an old ash tree. It's fairly large around, which is what we're looking for. We want to be able to have enough space that we can, you know, at least have it, that we have enough room. There's a big crack running down the middle of it, which we can maybe use to our advantage to split it. So I'm going to cut a little chunk out of this, and we'll see where we go. So it's pretty big around, but I don't want the center because that's what the soft spot is. I want to take kind of a 3-inch chunk out of it. I want to split it, but this thing's so big that I don't know that I can split it with my maul. So I'm going to give it a little help and start driving, do kind of a vertical cut with the chainsaw. At least get it down enough so I can drive a wedge in and hopefully split it. All right, so you've about thrown your back out carrying this giant log over to your workspace because it's ash and it's petrified and it's heavier than all hell. So we've cut it a little bit past length. We're eventually going to end up trimming it down, but basically I want this section right here. So instead of trying to split this massive log that's super dried and hard with a maul, I kind of ran the chainsaw down most of the way until this stuff's so hard it started dulling my blade. So I got it down a good portion of the way. We're going to try to drive it home and split it down with this steel kind of wedge and sledge. So we'll see if we can split this down, get it to crack, and get it to more manageable size before we start cutting more off of it. And like that, we're split. Let's see if I can Captain America this. Yeah, nice. Okay, so we're gonna get rid of this big chunk for now. So this is a froe, basically a long blade made to like go across the wood, and usually use like a hardwood mallet or something. I can't find mine today because it was out here and I'm sure it turned into firewood at some point. But essentially it goes across the wood. It's a big blade, you hammer it, and basically acts like just like the wedge, so it winds up splitting it, but in a manageable way. So you can kind of bring it down and you can kind of steer it a little bit if your cut's starting to follow the grain and go in a wrong direction. And then also when you get down a certain way, you can kind of use this as a levering action and split it a little further. But for now, we're just going to kind of come in here. Kind of hammer in there a bit. See if we can. Man, this ash is hard. So maybe we'll try the wedge again. There we go. I've got like a chopping block that I use here, which is just another piece of giant ash with some legs in it. But you can use anything, the ground, another stump. If you cut off two of these, you know, maybe one, maybe 6-7 inches, you can put it on that. Just something to hammer on. Because you don't want, if you're using axes or blades, you don't want to go through, hit the dirt. You want to try to stay into, you know, the woods and stuff. So something to use. Even a workbench is fine if you got a workbench in your garage. There we go. So that kind of leveled that out a little bit more. We're going to end up smoothing more of this out with an axe when we're done. But I want to now come in, take off the other side, which might be harder to do. We might have to go back to the chainsaw. I don't know if this froe can handle this stuff, but essentially we want to take off another inch because we want roughly to be maybe an inch thick to start, so we can smooth it out down to maybe 3/4 of an inch. We don't want it too thin, but we also don't want it too thick where you're going to store it in your cabinet and stuff. So we're going to want to kind of split this down a bit. Let's try it with the froe. May have to use the chainsaw to get it started again. Get a bit of a wedge. That did work out fairly well. I could try the maul now. At this point we could probably split this with a maul, but the maul is a little less accurate. You want to have something with a bit of control at this point. Wow, this stuff is solid, man. I mean, this blade is sharp and it barely put maybe a 1/2 inch cut into that. This stuff is really, really hard. It's gonna be hard to plane, but we're committed at this point. I mean, not really. I could have chosen another wood, but I don't have a whole lot around here other than ash. I've got a little bit of maple, but a lot of the maple that's here is still standing. I don't want to cut. I'm not cutting green wood, so we're gonna make it work. Let's see. I'm gonna get the maul and try and see if I can split that. I'm using the other half of the stump here to, it's kind of a chopping block. This will probably go horribly wrong here, but we'll try. See if we can get the split. I'm gonna put a bit of a crack. There we go. Nice. So we're left with this that's not looking terrible. We didn't get any stress cracks in here or here. We're still a little thick here, so this bit needs to come off. I could probably get that with the fro, and that will get us to the point of starting to look like a board. We're not anywhere near the pith that was on this side of the log, and we've got the back round out, so this is not looking terrible. It's YouTube stuff. It's new to me. All right, so there is a stress crack going right in here from one of the maul splits, and I can see it's split down, so I'm just gonna use that for my advantage. Put the blade right in that crack and try to just follow it down, spread it a little bit. Wedge this a bit. Always using caution with a blade. Go a little further out so I get a little more hammering room. All right, so here's our split going down. We're just going to use the wedge and drive it home and kind of split that out now. Man, this stuff does not want to split. That is incredible that doesn't want to go. There we go. That's insane. But the user, whoever gets this, the recipient will know that their charcuterie board will be, I can't say that word without sounding drunk, charcuterie will be solid as all hell. You can drop this thing and it ain't gonna break it. So I got my axe. We're gonna try to take some of this material off here. I'm gonna do it where you guys can see it though. So I'm gonna switch sides here. So you want to lean the workpiece back so that you're coming down in straight blows, but you're hitting kind of at an angle. And then you're going to want to kind of like make some relief cuts up and then slice it down. So relief cuts. And then just slice it down. And I'll come back when we're at a better, more manageable state here. I still have almost, I would say, an inch to cut off on this, or half inch on this side, and almost a full inch of material in the middle of this down here. So we're gonna work this down to almost flat, and then we'll flip it over and keep working on this. All right, so off camera, I hacked a bunch away at the axe, and I got the fro out and was able to split off some pretty decent sized chunks off of it, and we got it to a more manageable state now. So we're flattish. We still have a little bit of a round there, but we're gonna take that off here soon. So we're flat there. We're about 1.5 to 2 inches thickness here. We're still a little heavy on this side, but it kind of dips in, so we're a little thicker. We're about even there. And then if we flip it over to the other side, we still have that little bit of a belly there, but I'm going to use that to our advantage, I think. But we're about the same depth here. We're a little bit thinner on this side, but we'll eventually bring it down. All right, so I'm covered in dust, but I used the flap disc grinder I just showed you and tried to smooth a lot of this out. Try to take out a bunch of the high ridges and stuff just to save the plane blade a bit. We still have a pretty big belly going this way in top of it. Sorry, I misspoke earlier. I said the concave was the belly. That's actually called a hollow, but the belly kind of protrudes out, right? So we have a bit of a curve in here that I'm gonna try to take care of. I want this to be as flat as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's getting there. We're still a little bit thick in here, which I could try to throw out a little bit more of this, just take a little bit piece out of the bottom. It's risky at this point, but it's been splitting fairly straight, so I might just try to take out maybe a 1/2 inch here. All right, so I split it a little deeper with the fro. Got a little thinner on this side than I wanted to be, but you got to own it sometimes and follow the grain. I tried to correct it, but this stuff is just really tough to split. So we're about 1 inch here. Go down to about 3/4 of an inch here, but once we flatten this out, this will probably, the bottom is fairly flat. Once we flatten out the top, it'll probably be fairly consistent 3/4 of an inch all the way across. Okay, so battery died there. So battery swap. I've got the board kind of clamped down to the bench out here because I don't have a planing stop out here. So I'm going to try to smooth the best I can out here, outside, before I move into the garage and get the put the board on the planing stop on the bench and kind of finish playing it in there, so I'm not making too big of a mess because I've got a lot of wood to hog off here. So I'm going to use my number 5 record plane, and you can see as it sits here, got a big dip under here and a big gap under here. So basically that means everything in the middle has to come down to this level to be flat, right? Let's get planing. So you'll hear the strokes getting longer and longer, taking a longer cut. It means that that belly is starting to flatten out. So if we put it there again, we're a little bit lower on this side. We're still pretty high over on this side. So you got a big gap here and a gap here, but you can see we're starting to flatten out across that board there. So we're just going to keep going at it until our strokes, essentially what we want to be able to hear is a fairly consistent stroke from this side to this side. It's cutting fairly easy, but you're definitely going to get your workout. All right, well, I'm gonna keep doing this, save some battery. I'll come back to you when I'm fairly flat. Okay, so after a workout and a just massive amount of planing, we are fairly level on both sides. I've twisted the piece a couple times. Probably looks different orientation than when I left you, but twisted it a few times. You go across and basically we're fairly flat all the way across, minus the sides that have like a dip to it. So I could continue just planing this and planing this and planing this until it's flat, or I could realize that, you know, I'm almost 40 and my heart will give out eventually. So why not use this to our advantage? So kind of what I'm thinking is, when I start kind of smoothing this out, smooth planing it, finish planing it, I plane these edges to use that bevel, right? And I could smooth this bevel out, but kind of make it as, you know, the design of it. So I'm going to do that on the sides. So we'll get rid of this stuff and we'll start getting down to only planing the material that we need, because, you know, I'm old. Until I have to kind of take it inside and put it on the planing stop. But it's gorgeous out today, so I want to be outside as long as I can. And granted, the garage is kind of outside, but I like being in the outdoors. The woods back here, so it's Sunday and I'm in church. If that makes sense to some of you. You can hear it's not taking a ton of cuts right now because it's riding all those ridges. We're slowly bringing those ridges down. So yeah, if I'm laying this down right now, I could see this side of the plane, the nose and the heel are the only things touching right now. There's a big dip. So that means this side here is high, this side here is high. So it's why you'll hear a lot as I'm planing, this cut is coming off this side more. But even just now, the difference between feeling this and this little bit where it's cutting is like, it's just glass smooth. The plane gets it so smooth, it's smoother than any sanding will ever get you. It's just like glass. So almost sometimes too smooth, because you'll get a hard time getting finishes to stay on. But we're oiling this so we can keep as smooth as we want. So we're just going to keep taking this down until we get consistent smooth strokes all the way across. We get rid of some of this rough stuff. One thing occurred to me while I was planing this massive pile here. You're probably like, why are you doing this out of a giant log when you just go to Home Depot and get a board that's already flat, right? And yes, you can. And if you don't have woods, or you don't have access to logs or all these tools, I would suggest doing that. You know, go get a board. It's already smooth. Like, you skip this entire process. You just get to the point of put your design in it. But the reason I like doing it from the woods, it didn't cost me anything but my labor, my time. I know where this piece of wood came from, and it means more to me. It has more like feeling and heart, I guess, in the piece, which makes it more special for me. And I hope the person that I give it to, the recipient, that it means more to me. You know, like, I'll show them this video, you know, when I give this to them, so they know the work that went into this and the care that went into this. It's different, you know. Like I said, you don't have access to it, buy a board, that's fine too, because you're still putting your thought into it. You're still developing it and making it yours. But pulling something from the woods and making something out of it, it just kind of hits home a little different, at least for me. Somebody gives me something they make from themselves that they don't buy at a store, that, hey, I went out and made this. I don't care how you make it. Make it from board at Home Depot, make it from woods, make it from some random piece you found drifted up on the beach, driftwood. something like that means more to me than any other gift material item you could buy on Amazon or in a store. This means you thought enough of me, or the recipient, the person that got it, the person that made it, thought enough of you, if you're receiving it, to spend their time and their energy to make this for you. So I would never knock a homemade gift. Somebody gave me a homemade gift like that, means a ton to me, and I end up keeping those gifts forever, you know, and having a strong connection with them. Okay, so I've got it pretty much planed flat. It's not 100% smooth, but it's flat. So kind of what I want to do now is kind of design out my final shape. To do that, I've got this kind of circle tool, but you can use anything you want, anything round. You can use a can of green beans or something if you want to. It doesn't have to be anything like this. This just gives you a nice gauge. If I can remember how to turn it. There we go. So I want a fairly large hole round. So I think I'm going to go maybe 6-inch diameter, which gives us a 3-inch radius. So I've got that, and I've got my straight edge. So this, which side? No, this is going to be the front of my board. So I want to do everything off of that edge. So I'm going to try to make this as square as possible. Even though it's a live edge, it's kind of, you know, what it is. So I want to give as much room this side as I can. And then down here, I think I would want to go, I want to get rid of this dip, right? And this majority of this defect here, which has me concerned that eventually this is going to come out, but unless I cut it here, that seems way too short to me. So I want to go as long as I can, but that would also get rid of this. I might wind up breaking this piece out and gluing it back in just to be stronger if I notice it starts giving way on me. So I'm going to go to the edge of this dip and come down here. So now down here, without breasting that edge, I want to line this up the best I can. I'm just going to continue that line down. The reason you don't want to have this edge go against this is that could throw this off. You want to just follow your line so you can continue on the straight line to the front, which is here. So there's our squares. My edges are going to be right to the live edge, so what I want to do is roughly find, I'm going to do this. Basically find the middle and kind of find that round in there. And I mean, this doesn't have to be perfect right now because we're going to keep shaping it as we go. But basically you want this edge to be at the edge and the other edge to be to your pencil line. Like I said, you can have any radius, but that's going to be kind of the curve in. So it's just kind of, it's not a huge radius, but just a bit of a curve. We're going to wind up cutting this out with a jigsaw. You can use hand tools. You can use basically anything you have available to you to kind of round this. You could use the axe, to be honest. If you cut this out with your saw, with a handsaw, you could cut the straight lines, and then you could come in here in these little corners, you could nip off closest you can to the line, and you kind of use your axe to chop that material off. And then you could come in with a chisel or a file or a rasp or something. Even your plane, you know, if you have it sharp enough with a shallow set on it, you could come through and kind of smooth that out and round that out. But for now, we're going to use the jigsaw just to kind of cut it out in sake of time. But this is going to be our final finished board, this here, which I think is a good size. Alright, well, this side came out nice, but that's the joys of working with a jigsaw. So this side came out nice. You can see there, it's a little off square, but planeable to be square. This side though, we got all wonky with it, which is fine. We'll plane that out, plane that back smooth, and we're eventually going to undercut this too, so it makes a bit of handles in here to kind of grab onto, so that's okay. We'll make it work. Woodworking is not about being perfect, it's about working with your mistakes. So this is going to be our finished board. I think it's a good size, it's good to bring out, it feels good in the hand. It's still fairly heavy. We're still going to take some more material off, but it's heavy enough that it feels like sturdy, you know, as you put that on your table. That's a cool little piece. It's a lot of me talking off camera and stuff, but so we're working on this guy. We're gonna have it ready. We're gonna take it in the garage. We're gonna finish it up. Obviously at this point, this is probably where you would start if you bought a board from like Home Depot or something. Or if you went to like a local lumber mill, you bought a board, you know, you can round the edges and you're off to the races. So this might be the end of the first video, and I might pick up the second video of like finishing it, because we still have to plane it, we still have to oil it. I really kind of want to engrave something in it, which I think would be cool. I'd have to find a pattern for what I want to engrave. But yeah, I might do that. Oh, I could put a face in it too. No, you can't put wood spirits in everything. Well, that's kind of my thing. So yeah, I will probably see you on the next video. I'm still gonna just continue from here and go keep working, but this will probably be the end of this video for you guys. And then from there, the next video will pick up on if you bought a board from Depot or you got it to this point. Yeah, all right. I'll see you in the next one.